The hum of conversation and clinking of crystal filled l'Empyrean, New York's most exclusive restaurant. Beneath golden chandeliers, the city's elite dined in luxury, their laughter blending with the soft melodies of a grand piano. Waiters moved with silent precision, ensuring nothing disturbed the air of refinement. At the center of it all sat Melania Trump, the former First Lady, effortlessly commanding attention. Draped in an exquisite designer gown worth more than most people's annual salaries, she radiated elegance. Around her, glamorous friends leaned in, captivated by her effortless grace. "Melania, you must tell us," purred Veronica Hastings, swirling her wine. "How do you always remain so poised?" Melania offered a small smile. "Grace isn't about reaction," she murmured. "It's about control." Her words were met with admiration. The evening was perfect, until it wasn't. Sophie Carter, a young waitress, had worked at L'Empyrean for 3 years. The job was demanding, but it paid the bills. She had learned to navigate the high expectations of elite customers, moving with precision. Balancing a tray of steaming dishes, Sophie approached Melania's table. She was careful, focused, but fate had other plans. A slight unevenness in the floor, a barely perceptible shift in the carpet, threw her off balance. The tray wobbled, her grip failed. A deep red sauce tumbled from the plate in slow motion, splattering across the pristine ivory fabric of Melania's gown. Gasps echoed through the restaurant. Conversation stopped. Even the pianist hesitated. Sophie's heart pounded. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a career-ending disaster. Sophie froze, mortified. Panic clenched her chest as she reached for a napkin, her hands shaking. I I am so sorry, ma'am," she stammered. "Let me—" Melania glanced down at the stain. The rich fabric was ruined. Sophie braced for anger, for a sharp reprimand. Instead, something entirely unexpected happened. Melania smiled. With effortless grace, she picked up a napkin and dabbed at the stain. "It's all right, dear," she murmured, her voice soothing. "Accidents happen." The tension shattered. Laughter rippled through the table. Sophie blinked, unable to believe her luck. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be the end. Melania's friends exchanged admiring glances. "How gracious," one whispered. "She's always so composed," another said. Sophie exhaled shakily, her entire body weak with relief. The night resumed as if nothing had happened. Melania entertained her guests with the same effortless charm, her dazzling image untouched. Sophie returned to the kitchen, still dazed. "I can't believe she was so nice about it," she muttered. Her coworker shrugged. "She's a public figure. She has to be." Sophie didn't know why, but the words unsettled her. Inside her sleek black limousine, Melania adjusted the bracelet on her wrist, her expression unreadable. The stain on her dress no longer mattered. She turned to her assistant, who sat across from her. "Make sure she's fired," Melania said calmly. The assistant hesitated. "The waitress?" "Yes." "But you didn't seem upset," the assistant ventured cautiously. Melania's gaze was cool. "And that is exactly why no one should ever know." She looked out at the city skyline, the evening already a memory. The next day, Sophie walked into work with quiet optimism. Maybe she had been spared. Maybe kindness still existed. She was wrong. The restaurant manager was waiting, arms crossed. His face was grim. "Sophie, my office. Now." Dread pulled in her stomach. She barely had time to sit before he spoke. "You're fired." The words felt like a slap. "What?" "You spilled food on one of the most important people in the country. You embarrassed the restaurant." Sophie's breath caught. "But she said it was fine. She even smiled." The manager sighed. "It wasn't my decision." A slow, terrible realization crept in. This hadn't come from the restaurant. It had come from her. Melania Trump, the woman who had reassured her with a kind smile, had done this. Sophie's hands curled into fists. How could someone be so effortlessly cruel? She wanted to scream. to expose the truth. But who would believe her? Who would believe that America's most admired woman, the epitome of grace, had been the architect of her downfall? No one. And Melania knew that. Sophie walked out of the restaurant for the last time. The air felt heavier, the city more indifferent than ever. 3 years of dedication erased in a single night. She checked her phone, hoping for a message from a coworker, a sign of support. Nothing. To the world, she had simply disappeared. Melania's reputation remained untarnished. Her story, the gracious, elegant woman who had smiled in the face of misfortune, would live on. The truth, that had been buried along with Sophie's job. The city lights blurred as Sophie wandered aimlessly. She had given everything to that job. And for what? So that someone else could uphold an illusion? As she stared at the glowing skyline, she realized something bitterly. The price of elegance was never paid by the elegant. It was paid by people like her. Somewhere across town, Melania Trump stepped into another grand event, her gown impeccable, her poise unshaken. No one knew what had happened the night before. No one would ever know, because power wasn't just about wealth or influence. It was about control. And Melania Trump had perfected that art. Sophie, now just another nameless casualty of the elite, faded into the background of a world that had never seen her in the first place. Because in the game of power, only one rule mattered. Perception was everything. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, don't miss the next story. A new story awaits you every evening.